Good morning, everyone. After talking about creating questions, today's note is going to be about different ways you can collect data or different kind of methods for getting information, of which surveying is one of those methods. Okay, so again, there's a bit of writing here. There's 3 slides with 3 little paragraphs on it. Okay, and each one I'm just going to read the paragraph to you as you're taking it down, make a couple comments. Okay, so again, just please make sure the video gets paused so you have enough time to write the information down. Okay, so there are several ways, okay, to collect primary data for an investigation. Okay, again, primary is data that you get yourself. Okay, secondary is from an existing source. Okay, so a survey, which you've already talked about. Statistical surveys are used to collect quantitative information. Okay, so quantitative being numbers, right? Not how do you feel about something, but how much or how often. Okay, a numerical quantity. Okay, but it's collecting quantitative information from a specific population. Okay, a survey may focus on opinions or other factual information depending on the purpose of the study. Okay, surveys may involve answering a questionnaire or being interviewed by a researcher. Okay, again, we talked about a little bit of that yesterday. Okay, that you could talk to somebody face to face. You could hand out a piece of paper. You can do them on the internet now. Okay, that's typically how they would run. Okay, so for example, telephone polls. Okay, if you ever get a call on the phone asking you to complete a survey. Actually, you may have even heard there's a radio ad at the moment asking you if you see numerous come up in your call display, please don't hang up. They want to survey you about like TV and radio habits and things. Okay, customer response cards. So if you've ever been in a restaurant or maybe when you shop at like say Home Depot or Walmart, on the way out, they might say, hey, go online and take this survey and enter for a chance to win something, but they're trying to get your opinion. Okay, so that's another way you can collect information. Okay, the census, which we've talked about a little bit in class, is just a very big survey. Okay, so that's one way you can collect information, is just kind of hand something out and say, here, please fill this in, and I'll take it back. Okay, it really puts a lot of emphasis and trust on the person you're giving it to, that they're going to fill it out correctly for you, okay, and do what you intended. The second way to do it, okay, is to conduct what's called an experimental study. So instead of just asking people to write down the information you think you need, is you set up an experiment to collect the information that you need. Okay, so in an experimental study, the researcher takes measurements or surveys the sample population. Okay, so they take measurements from the population. The researcher then manipulates the sample population in some manner. So we do some kind of initial thing, then we make a change to the population, and then we measure again to see if there's a difference. So the researcher remeasures or resurveys using the same procedure to determine if manipulation possibly changed measurements. Okay. Some examples, right? Psychology studies, which I know I talked about, pharmaceutical trials when they're trying out a drug, science experiments that you've done in maybe in chemistry, okay, performance tests, those kind of things. So for example, I'll talk briefly about the pharmaceutical trials, right? The idea there is the experiment is that you divide your population into a couple of groups. Okay, you've got some medicine or some other kind of a drug you want to test what it does. So one half of the group you give the new medication, okay, the drug to. The other half of the group you give what's called a placebo, okay, or sometimes they used to be called sugar pills, I think. But you give them a bottle of pills that don't actually do anything. They're just pills. They're they're not candy, but essentially to your body they'll be like candy. They don't actually do anything medically for you. Okay, so that's the manipulation part, right, is that they've manipulated the study and that some people are actually getting the medicine, some people aren't. Okay. And then they wait for a while, and then they put some information on what difference the medicine made. Okay. The reason they do the placebo is for what's called the placebo effect. Okay. For some people, or I guess for a lot of people, maybe more generally, if you give them some medication that you tell is going to make them better, just the fact that they know they're getting something that would make them feel better um, makes them feel better. Okay, so that's why you have to split it into a group of people who actually get the medicine and another group who gets basically a fake one, so you can eliminate that background. Right? Did this actually work or not? Okay. Okay, if you've taken a physics class, if you've ever done one of those ramp experiments, the manipulation may be changing the height of the ramp, okay, and remeasuring what happens to the marble or ball or little car as it rolls down the ramp. Okay, appreciate your patience. Here's third type. Okay, the third type is an observational study. So in an observational study, the sample population being studied is measured or surveyed as it is. The researcher does not influence the population in any way or attempt to intervene in the study. There is no experimental manipulation. Instead, data is simply gathered and correlations are investigated. Okay, so you don't directly interact with the populations being studied, but you watch it in some way to figure out what you would like to know. Okay, so some examples of this. Okay, wildlife observation. Okay, obviously you're not going to walk up to a lion and ask him what his sleeping habits are like. You're just going to set up a little camp somewhere and watch for it and see what it does. Okay, mark analysis. Okay, this is more, for example, for me as a teacher. This is something we do sometimes in the background. We might sit down with a table of marks from a class. We don't necessarily need to know who they belong to, but right, we can analyze things about classes, averages, stuff like that. Okay, even though you're not talking directly to the person involved, you might not know them at all, but you can look at their marks and try to get some information out of it. Okay, traffic studies. Okay, you may have seen sometimes people putting those wires on the road attached to a box. Okay, that's a traffic study. It just records cars as it goes by. Okay, it is not necessary to be there even. If it's done electronically, it just records information as the day goes on. Okay, so those are kind of these three types. So one quick example here. Actually, before that, we'll do the example first, I think. Okay, so which of those three things do you think would work for each situation? What type would you do? Okay, so first, okay, determine the effectiveness of airbags. So you think we can do a survey or experiment for an observational study? Okay. Now, yes, we're trying to observe the effectiveness of the airbag, okay, but I personally wouldn't call this an observational study. This would be an experiment, okay, because you want control here, right? It would be done in a lab, okay, where you set up the car, set up the crash conditions, and test it, right? Crash the car and see what happens. Okay, you would not do this as an observational study where you just go stand in the city and wait for a crash and see what happens. Okay, so that's not what it would be at all. But yeah, so you need some control, manipulate the environment, okay, setting up the conditions of the car, see what happens when it crashes. Okay, next one. To determine the most popular TV show, which method would you probably do? Okay, this one I think is a bit of a toss-up, but personally I would say it's probably a survey. You just go and talk to people and ask them what their favorite show is on TV, or today probably on Netflix or one of those other services. Okay. You could do this by an observational study. I'm honestly not quite sure how it will work anymore. The right television networks, you know, collect ratings, right? They collect information about how many people are tuning into their channel. So you could figure out popularity of a show based on that. Or that would be like, Netflix streams. Netflix keeps track of how many times one of their shows is streamed. Okay? Or it could be movie downloads from iTunes, something like that. So it could be an observational study if you look at the data that exists um, from those companies. Okay, getting the public's opinion on vaccination, which is a touchy subject for some people. Okay, and again, it's going to be a survey. You need to talk to people to get the information from them directly. Okay, finding the optimum route across a major city. So what's the best way to get across the city? Okay. Again, could go a couple different ways. Okay. I would say this is probably observation. Okay. Right, you could set up on a few different corners, watch how the traffic moves to get an idea of what's going on. Okay, you could easily make an argument for an experiment here, though. Maybe you put somebody in a car and tell them to drive a certain route, and then just keep doing that over and over again with different routes, and then you know, hopefully, which one is the best. Okay, last one. You want to gauge support for, should we have uniforms here at our school? Okay, I'm not saying we should, just if you were trying to figure that out. Again, this would probably be a good one for a survey. Like you need to go ask people their opinion. Okay, so we're going to switch gears a little bit here. I think I'll save that Snakes and Ladder story that was on that other slide for tomorrow. When I'm back, I'll tell that story. Okay, because the next part of this is really to run a little experiment. Okay, and I'm going to do that with you in class tomorrow. So we're going to switch gears a little bit, and this is where, if you don't have one already, you're going to need to grab a Chromebook from the Chromebook cart. We're going to briefly show you how to input some data, okay, and use that to make a spreadsheet, a graph, and a line of best fit. Okay. So hopefully you grabbed a Chromebook. Okay, if not, pause. We'll make sure we get them. What you're going to need to do, I know the interface looks different on the Chromebook than it does here on my computer, but you need to get into what's called Google Sheets. Okay, so either by searching it, okay, I'm not 100% sure how, but I'm sure between all of you, you can work it out and get everybody in there. Okay, you're going to start a blank spreadsheet. Okay, so this is what it looks like, a table with some places you can put information. Okay. Okay, we're going to be using some information from your textbook. Okay, if you don't have your textbook, you don't have to go grab it right this second. Okay. Just follow along as I input it on the video here. Okay. So what I'm using is on page, I'll just flip back here for a second. I'm on page 148. Okay, and this is question number 4. Okay, it's talking about salt intake and blood pressure. Okay, so that's where I'm getting the data from. So the first thing I'm going to do is just copy the information in this table. So the first column is patient. Okay, and it just goes from A all the way down to H. Okay. Second column I'm going to use, this is average salt intake. Now notice how they didn't quite fit. Okay, you can change the column size if you click at the top and just drag it over a little bit. You get some more space. Okay, so we've got 8.4, 10.4, 4.9, 7.8, 12.8, 7.9, 8.4, 1.4. Okay, next column, and I'll stop here. This is the systolic blood pressure. Okay, so 120, 164, 18, 124, 185, 163, 34, 128. Okay, so again, this would probably be a good place to pause for a moment if need be to make sure everybody gets this down. Okay, so if you're back, we're now going to show you how to make a scatter plot of this information. Okay, so I don't really even need that first column to do a scatter plot. It's more for reference. So I'm going to click and I'm going to highlight those two, average salt intake and systolic blood pressure. Okay, to make my scatter plot, okay, either you're going to go here to this insert menu, go to chart, okay, or there is a chart button over here. Okay, on mine, this is insert chart. Let's go to bar graph. Okay. Okay, I'll go back here, insert chart. Okay, Google will automatically pick what it thinks is the best chart to use. So in my case, it came up with a scatter plot right away, okay, which is awesome. That's what I wanted to do. Okay, if it didn't, you just have to click here and chart type if it didn't do that for you. And you have to find it. Okay, it'll be in here somewhere, right? Scatter is down here. But that's what you would have to do instead. Okay. Okay, so that's great. We got our graph. Okay. What we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to add a line of best fit, which is again something we're going to be doing with data in the next few days. So over here, where it says customize, okay, you're going to go to where it says series, and scroll down a bit. And you can play with things, right? You can change the color of the dot if you want to, okay, and the shape. But what I really want is down here where it says trend line. You're going to click on that. You can see that is a line that fits the graph. Okay. Now, if I want to show its equation, okay, the spreadsheet can actually do that for me too. It can give me the equation of this line of best fit. So down here where it says label, we're going to switch to use equation. So now the equation shows up. Okay, finally below it, there's this box that says show R squared. Now I want you to click it. Okay, that's what it does. We'll explain how it works in the next couple of days. But this is something I need you to be able to do on the spreadsheet is input data, okay, and then make a graph and try to do something with it from there. Okay. So to practice this, to make sure you got that down pat, okay, what I would like you to work on for the remainder of class, two things. Okay, from the same section of the textbook, okay, I want you to work on number 5 and number 8, number 9. Okay. And even I just want you to focus on creating the scatter plots, making sure you can get a line of best fit on there. You don't necessarily have to answer all the questions in the book. I just want you to use the data to practice setting up the scatter plot. Okay, so that's for the scatter plot part. Okay, so the earlier part that we talked about with, you know, survey versus experiment versus observational study. Okay, a couple questions I'd like you to think about. Would be good things to discuss with your neighbor. Okay, it would be questions 1 to 3. Okay, on that page. And that's it. Okay, so yeah, please either practice creating scatter plots or discuss questions 1 to 3 there with your neighbor. Okay, and we can see how it goes from there. All right. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.